Hi, everyone. How is everyone doing? Welcome to my channel and welcome to today's live concert from my living room. Um, very excited to let you guys know today's um, concert is actually a new series that I'm starting, DANZA. Um, so, as the title gives away that all the selections from this series will be about dance music. So we think about um, ever since human lived together as a community, um, music and dance always go together. And whether we're looking at traditional music, ethnic music, um, all over the world, um, we see how people just naturally move to um, music, whether it's folk tunes or music that tells a story, talked about their heritage. Um, and for classical musicians, um, we go all the way back to 14th, 15th century. We have the trottle, SMP, right? Um, all those dance music, uh, the ones surviving till our day through the classical era was the minuet. Um, Minuet is a dance form in three. It comes from the word French word menu. Uh, Technically means small steps or slender steps. So minuet is a dance for couples. Uh, Move in small steps. So it's a very elegant dance. Um, and it happened that around the mid 17th and mid 18th century, the entire Europe was in this stage of enlightenment, where a lot of the thinkings uh, to the way of life had changed dramatically. A lot of thinkers, musicians, and artists were trying different format, new format. Even the concert hall, the audience are all changing as a result of the decline in the power from the aristocrats and the monarchy. Now, this whole um, period of time that they call enlightenment also came uh, at a time when fashions become a frenzy throughout Europe. The French actually were taking the lead in lavish, extravagant outfit. You can imagine these uh, gigantic um, costume that they have to wear for these ladies, along with this wig, and it's not easy to move around. It's quite heavy. In fact, they have to make sure their hairdo is nice and all powdered with flour meal. In fact, it was such a fancy that they have drawn the cost of flour, a ordinary staple, to such a high demand that ordinary people had a hard time paying for food because the flour price of that flour is sky high because these monarchs they have to make sure they powder their wig. So that kind of set a background for us as musicians to understand, well, to interpret these music And these were music written for uh, the monarchs, uh, understanding the costume they were wearing. They're not athletics. They probably don't want to move too much. And so it has to be easy to listen to, right? It's for entertainment, nothing too exciting. And if you want them to get involved and actually dance, those were actually ballroom dance for socializing. So even the position of each couple, where they stand in that dance, says a lot about their social standing. So with that said, we're at the height of the Enlightenment. Um, in the early 18th century, here is Mozart. He was definitely very acquainted of the high society and the high life that he was living. So it was common for him to write in the style of minuet. Um, Interesting thing was Mozart actually was more worried about what if I get invited to a party on my way and I didn't have my violin with me? How am I going to provide music for entertainment? So he actually had a folded violin, a tiny little violin that he can fold and tuck it into his jacket. He literally walks around with a mini violin and the bow with it. So he can make sure that wherever he's going, in case he met someone who would just happen to invite him to a party, he will be ready. And of course, anytime he's sat at a keyboard, he can always improvise that. Well, so with that background, I thought it would be appropriate to include Mozart's Minuet K334. Now, here's a transcription by Yasha Heifetz. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I am now trying to uh, find, see if I can read your comments. Yeah, feel free to comment. Um, this is a live event, live chat, live concert. Yeah, so today is the first episode of the new series, DANZA. So all program selected um, are around dance music. So I usually like to start with something that is easy to listen to, not too much excitement yet. It will come. The energy will keep adding on. So here is Amadeus, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart Minuet K334. They number it, so obviously he wrote tons of minuets. Yes, minuet is oftentimes the first kind of dance we learn as musicians when we were, first starting. And now we understand why it's a French word, because it's very French. All right. Hope to hear from you guys along the way, because usually it takes me a while to find those comments. All right. Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's new Serie, DANZA, live concert from my living room. Um, yes, would love to see you guys on the live chat section. If you can, yeah, share where you're from and your name and all that. Would greatly appreciate. Love to see your comments. Yes, what I just performed was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Minuet, K334. This was a transcription originally. It was written for a string orchestra, and Joshua Heifetz was the one who transcribed it for violin and piano. Minuet was one of the surviving dance form from the Baroque period, which was early 17th to 18th century, with the Enlightenment movement that was happening throughout the entire Europe. That was during the time of the scientific revolution, a lot of new thinkers, philosophers, musicians also came up. And one of them from France, who had a lot of influence, not only for the French composer that came after him, but also he was very influential to Mozart, to Bach as well. And here is Jean-Philippe Rameau. Rameau lived a quite quiet and obscure life. Nothing was written about him before he was 40 years old. So he was a very private person, secluded. The work that he did, he wrote a lot of operas. He himself was a very prolific keyboard player. By keyboard, we meant harpsichord, and he wrote a lot of work for harpsichord. And all these works were produced after he was 40. During the time, the Italian and the French were, engaging in a lot of these ballroom music. Easy, simple to listen to, no complicated rhythm. The melody is very simple and clear, and a few chords here and there to support the melody. But when Rameau came along, he said, "No, it shouldn't be like that. This is just simply too simple." Rather, he thought that the harmony that accompany the melody should be part of the melody as well. So you can imagine right away it brought the level of musicianship to a new height. Uh, his ideas were debated for years. It wasn't very well received because with monarchy, all they wanted was simple entertainment and pleasure. They didn't want any musical sound that they're not familiar with. Um, so you can imagine, wasn't a very good way to start your career with all the debate going on. um, with Rameau, he also wrote the Treaty of Harmony. That's where it came from. Um, so with that being said, Rameau was very adamant about um, rhythm, um, harmony. And here's the piece written originally for keyboard, tambourine. By tambourine, I know you're thinking of the percussion instrument with the bells around it and with a side that you can play like a drum. That's basically what it is. But tambourine in itself is also a typical drum from the Arabic region. During Rameau's time, this instrument, tambourine, was very popular in southern France. So it becomes a genre of itself. So in the music, you are going to hear some drum bass or drum bass, very strong rhythm. That brings a very rustic and lively, brisk vibe to it, which is the reason I like it. Rameau didn't really write for violin, although he wrote operas and for string instruments. Of course, they were involved in the opera music, but this is a transcription by Fritz Kreisler, who was a 19, 20, early 20th century violinist who will introduce his work later as well. But yes, Kreisler did a transcription of Rameau's tambourine. I hope you like it. So this is a folk tune melody that usually accompany dancers. Now, the next piece is by Johann Sebastian Bach. He wrote 6 sonatas and violins for six, son- 6 sonatas and partitas for solo unaccompanied violin. And most of the movements in the partita were dance music, dance form music. Thank you. And partita actually is a set of dances. And when I first learned of the different movements, I noticed they are all written in, the title were written in French. For example, you have minuet, bourrée, lore, jigue, gavotte, rondel. Make me wonder, why French? Yes, if you have to understand Bach, you gotta go to France because that was the fashion. And during that time, Bach actually was around the time when Rameau was around. So you can imagine Bach lived in the beginning of the Enlightenment. So he was also an influential figure during that time. Although he lived in Leipzig, Germany, most of his life, but fashion spreads pretty quickly. And so Bach borrowed these French dance form, and 2 of the movements that I'm going to perform for you guys are from his Partita number 3 in E major. So these 2 movements are bourrée and jigue. Bourrée is actually a very brisk and lively Baroque French dance form in cut time, always with a pickup. And jigue is simply a dance in 3. Yeah, so without further explanation, I'm going to start with the bourrée. are the two dance movements from Bach's Partita Number 3, Bourrée and Giga. Now we have gone from Mozart, French composer Jean-Philippe Rameau, and Bach. Let's get to, oh yes, Fritz Kreisler. I actually wrote down program notes here. Okay. Fritz Kreisler. As you heard earlier, Rameau's tambourine was a Fritz Kreisler transcription. See, Fritz Kreisler was a composer that was around or before the time of the First World War. So that was early 20th century, late 19th, earlier 20th century. Hi, buddy. It's okay. No life's harm. You can always listen to it later. So yes, Fritz Kreisler, he himself started playing the violin when he was 4, learned from his father, and later on went to Paris conservatory. And you can imagine going to Paris at that time was a big deal. For, you know, Paris was the place for musician, just as Vienna. And Fritz Kreisler was born in Vienna, Austria. So you can imagine he had the perfect environment for his musical growth. However, he had a difficult time starting his career. Even with his talent, he was also a student of composition, studied with the famous Bruckner. So yes, that gave him a lot of credential when he was doing all these transcription. So it was only after during the wartime that he restarted his musical career after serving 1 year in the French army, and he came over to New York. So you can imagine, in order for him to get recognition, he would take music that were already very famous or popular. For example, Bach Gavotte, Bach Prelude, Rameau Tambourine, and a lot of other works, and did transcription for violin and piano. So he would then perform them for his own concert or have other violinists perform his transcription works. So that was his business strategy. But it also showed how prolific he was as a composer. And this particular piece that I choose, it's a miniature Viennese march. In itself, it has a lot of influence from Viennese music, although it does not have the word dance in it, but it does have a lot of dance character to it. So here is Fritz Kreisler's own original works, miniature Viennese waltz or march. Hi, everyone. That was Fritz Kreisler's miniature Viennese waltz, Viennese march, in fact. Yes, it has a very sassy, dance like character to it. Um, yeah, it's a happy piece. Um, although um, this piece was, you know, named after, title after Vienna, even though Fritz Kreisler was here in New York City most of the time after the war. In fact, he acquired American citizenship. So, yes, this is a person that was everywhere. um, we are going to look at more of his work in the coming weeks. His work was definitely interesting. Um, and here we're moving on to Spain. Spanish composer by the name of Manuel de Falla. De Falla was a very prominent, influential Spanish composer. During the time of um, Granada, um, Albanese, um, Ravel, all these people were also influenced by the work of De Falla. There was a time of um, during his life that he actually spent an extended amount of time in Paris, France. Yeah, and most of his work production was done while he was spending time in France. But yeah, I looked up Manuel de Falla. He didn't write anything particularly for violin, but a lot of orchestral work, a lot of operas, um, and a few songs for singers, pianists. because he was also a pianist. Um, yeah, he spent about 7 years in France right before the World War broke out. Now, this particular work, yeah, uh, by Manuel de Falla, Suite Populaire Espagnole, was first written for singers, the 7 popular Spanish songs. However, I have to correct myself. So the composer De Falla himself actually transcribed this particular work, this set of songs for violin and piano. Um, although he omitted one of the songs because it didn't quite fit the instrument, and he also switched the order of the songs and put together Suite Popular Español. A lot of Spanish influence. The region that he was from, the Andalusia mountainous region, was famous for their flamenco. In fact, all the flamencos that we now enjoy came from there. So you can imagine his writing has a lot of idioms that refers to the strumming of the guitar or the flamenco style in these broken chords. Um, yeah, so it's a very festive piece. The first one is actually Al Paño Maruno, and I was looking for the lyrics, even though as instrumentalists we don't really have to sing the words, right? But I thought, why not look up what he was, thinking? But um, in this, every movement, the Fire wrote the lyrics for these songs, and each song refer to one of the regions in Spain. So I thought that was very interesting. Now, the first one was the Moorish cloth. When I look at the music was definitely passionate uh, and fiery, but when I look at the lyrics, I just had to laugh because it was very comical. So this is a very very loose English translation that I'm just going to read to you guys. The cloth is so fine on the counter. If blemished, if it's blemished once by a stain, then it will worth little or nothing, or it would be sold at a cheaper price, at a loss of its value. So, it sounds really passionate, but that's all. Talking about piece of cloth have stain, or if it had a stain. All right, so I'll let you have a go. See how you like it. It has a lot of Spanish flavor in it, so it's a cool piece. The next movement from this suite actually in music, it means a set. Yeah, a set of songs. So the next one is called Canción, literally means a song. Um, again, there are words written to it. The fire himself wrote these words. Um, and let's see what's. Oh, yes. So in this whole suite, forgot to mention, there's a theme to it. It was about love, loss, and betrayal. So sad love, but it sounds so happy. So the song Cancion actually borrowed a lot from flamenco traditional guitar. Um, uh, all right, so here's the words. I should bury your eyes. So he was very bitter about his lover left him. Um, so he regained strength once he decided to finally bury his feelings and bitterness that left in him, right? And so he said, um, you don't know what it costs for me, but basically that's what it meant. But here and there are words that are redundant or irrelevant to the lyrics of the rest of the song. Heavens and mother, what does it have to do with that? And when I look it up, it was really for fitting into the notes to make it sound cool, just to have some, I guess, playing with words and syllables to kind of fit to the, yeah. But as again, instrumentalists, we don't pay attention to these things. So Cancion is the song, but it really uh, resemble Spanish flamenco dance. So here is the Fire Cancion from his Suite Popular Espanol. Sorry, here. Oops. Yeah, so that was the Cancion from uh, the Suite Popular Espanol. There are 6 movements altogether. So, yeah, we're going to hear more of those in the coming weeks. Now, it comes to the final songs. Yes. A Czech composer by the name of Antonin Dvořák. He was from the Czech land around the same time as Manuel de Fire, or a little bit before that, because I think Dvořák passed away before the wartime. He was actually native Bohemian. So you can imagine how that influenced his writing. A lot of his writing has idioms that borrow from folk tunes, folk dance. Even if he didn't exactly repeat those tunes, he would borrow the rhythm. So this particular piece that I'm going to perform is actually from his 4 romantic pieces for violin and piano. But I just thought that not only was Dvořák a romantic period composer, it also has a lot of folk tunes folk dance tunes that was borrowed into these music, and uh, reminiscent to his Slavonic dances. So he wrote two sets of Slavonic dance, opus 40, 64 and 75. And so these romantic pieces were really kind of like a miniature of um, what had influenced his writing. Now, there's a little story about these um, romantic pieces, the set of four romantic pieces. Initially, it started from when he was renting a room, um, and he found out that one of the neighbors, upstairs or downstairs, I don't remember, a student who also plays the violin. So Dvorak got very excited. He said, "Hey, I can play the viola. You can play the violin. I'm going to write a trio. We're going to do get one more person to play the violin part, so we can have two violins and one viola. We can do a string trio." So he wrote this whole set actually for a string trio, two violins and a viola. So he got really excited, right? As they were playing together, it got too hard for that student, for his neighbor. It was a little above his ability. So for the longest time, this set of music was shoved aside because, right, no points of playing it because it's no fun. So until much later, when the publisher found out, "Hey, didn't you write something for strings?" And Dvorak then transcribed the trio to violin and piano. But these days, even the string trio are pretty popular among string musicians. uh, so, uh, very typical musician stories is that you get very excited when you find out that your neighbor also play an instrument. um, so I'm going to perform the first two movements from Dvorak Romantic Piece, um, Opus 75, first and second movement. This brings to the end of today's live concert from my living room, a new series, DANZA. Every Tuesday on my Instagram at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. I also do a live concert series, and every week the program is different. Some are continuation of the dance movement, but a lot of new material. As you can imagine, lots of works were composed for the violin and piano. A lot of dance music. Coming week, just a little preview. We will get to know um, Johann Brahms, who had a lot of influence on violin music. And oh, thank you. Yeah, it was fun playing that piece. Actually, I forgot to repeat. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to look at Hungarian dances. In the coming week, we're going to spend some time also with Defaya on his Spanish dance because we cannot not include him if we have to get to some Spanish components. Some French music as well. French composer also wrote a lot of dance form, as we have learned earlier. And oh, yes, probably some Bach and Mozart. Oh, yeah, it's right here. And yeah, we're going to also look at music from Piazzolla, Argentina, tango master for tango, and Batok. So the choices are endless. So the combination for these programs are endless for the coming few weeks. So every Friday on YouTube at 5 o'clock is also a live concert series, The Dancer. Now, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Click subscribe and the notification. So every time I post new videos or performing live like today, you will get notified. And in fact, a new video that has two parts was just uploaded to my YouTube channel. Is a discussion of Camus and Song the Swan from one of the segments, my take on that I do live on Instagram every Friday at 2 o'clock. So earlier this afternoon, I also did another segment on Instagram live. So every week I will choose a different topic or different musical selection, talk about my interpretation, my thoughts on the piece, and also some technical elements, especially for string players or for violinists, how I tackle them, how I practice, or just a little violin tips here and there. So for the discussion for the Swan, we talked about creating lyrical melodic lines, and both division and vibrato. Yes. Now, earlier today, segment my take on was already posted on my Instagram account, Sharon Young Violin. So if you go over there and check it out, it's a discussion. Basically, it's today we talked about. Oh yes, how do I decide what pieces that I will choose to be included in a concert program? And also, out of those pieces, how do I decide the order of the program? Uh, yeah, so I just talk about some concepts and my approach of it. Also, an announcement, a CD album that comes with songs that are included in my previous live concert from the living room from Bach to Tango. So all the pieces that I have been performing from Bach to Tango are in here. Not all, but yeah. So quite a number of selections in here. So the segments might take on from last week and today on my Instagram was a discussion on how I put the album together. Yes, so if you're interested, email me, DM me on my Instagram. And I hope you enjoy it. And remember to come back on Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Hope to see you next week. Enjoy your weekend ahead. Take care. Bye.